Hi, welcome back everybody, it's Mike Newton down here at Lytham Golf Academy. I've got a fairway wood comparison video for you today, and it's the Ping G410 fairway 3 wood, and I've got the standard G410, and then I've got the G410 LST, the low spin. So I'm going to see the differences between the spin, between the standard head and the LST, to really see if that LST is doing what it's sort of saying in terms of that lower spin. Maybe also look at what other subtle differences are with the head and the shape, and maybe how it sort of sits, and how that might sort of influence you, maybe what you're sort of looking for. But we're going to get straight into the video and just compare these two clubs. Okay, so we're going to start off with the standard head first. So Ping G410 3 wood. It comes in standard loft at 14.5 degrees. I've got it set at 14.5. Obviously we can adjust loft through the neck sleeve, but I'm going to leave it as it is, set as square as it possibly can, 14.5 degrees. Obviously got that weighted tungsten screw at that back section here. What you'll find with the standard head, it's a little bit longer from that front to the back. I'm going to play it with exactly the same shaft. I'm going to take the shaft out and put it into the LST, so to keep this comparison as equal as I can. And I've got the Ping Tour 75 in an X Flex mid-size grip, which is more of my spec. So again, I'm a big fan of the Ping fairway woods. I think they sit fantastically well behind the golf ball. That low profile, it just makes it look very inviting just to get this ball launching up and away. Obviously got some turbulators on the top. Some of you might like that, some might not. Let's get this first one hit. So I'm just going to hit these off a very small tee, because I think a lot of golfers would probably use this off the tee as you know, obviously as much as a fairway as well, but maybe I'm just more interested to see what it does off the tee. Okay, it's a nice solid strike. It's a little bit up that right hand side there, but not by much. Yeah, so quite a high sort of flight straight away I'm seeing there. Again, got this at 14.5, so this isn't going to change between the tests on these shots, but it seems to be quite a high ball flight there. I think first instincts when I'm putting the standard head down, it does look to me to sit slightly toed in, which I don't like, to be honest, because my miss tends to be more left, so that just looks like it's inviting me to do that a little bit more. So it feels like I need to sort of manipulate this a little bit more. So it just sits a little bit sort of toed in. Obviously I can drop the loft to square the face up, but if I'm wanting to keep the loft the same, then I'm going to have to look at this slightly toed in head with this standard version. That's a good strike. Rip that one. Again, very high sort of ball flight, much straighter that time. That's a really good strike there, to be fair. So 266 there, so good distance there, spinning around that sort of 3,500 mark on that backspin. Oh, that's that left one. That's the one that just concerns me a little bit. Feel like I'm going to get that shot, even though I didn't do the first two there. It does feel like I'm going to get that shape with just that head just sitting a little bit toed in. Obviously it's a little bit more me as well. That's a bit of a toe shot, that. So not the greatest of strikes, bit toey. You can see how that just started a little bit square, but then turned over left more through that toe strike. 267. That'll probably pull a bit of spin off that because of the toe strikes. That's spun at just over 3,100 there, a little bit more through that strike. Okay, we'll get one more hit. Okay, that's not a bad strike there. That's not a bad strike at all. That should be a pretty long golf ball there. Yeah, that's really getting out there. So I've got hold of that one, 279, really good sort of strike. Spin just dropping off, just catching a fraction that toe side there, which is going to pull a little bit of spin off there. Okay, right, so there's the standard head. I'm going to switch the exact shaft out of this head and put it into the LST head, and we'll hit a batch of shots with that. Okay, so LST head on now, 14.5 degrees, same shaft, same grip. Just literally head change, and straight away there, as I put that down by the golf ball, that sits much squarer. So we tend to sort of see that theme more in the low spin models, tends to sort of lend itself more to that player who's got a little bit more speed, which tends to be the better player, and the better player doesn't like to see the club face pointing left. So definitely a more pleasing look for me personally. Now, if you're a fade or a slice of the golf ball, you will probably want that help of that toe being a little bit more toed in, so that where the standard one might just suit your eye better. Complete opposite for me. I don't like it going left, so I don't want to see it go point left. If you're a slicer, you don't want that club face to point square or even right. So, but to me, that sits much more pleasing to the eye. Great head, a little bit more compact from that front to the back than the standard one, so it's a little bit more of that squat design. That's a lovely strike. Again, fraction toe there, but really nice sort of ball flight. Didn't quite get all of that, but it's done pretty well there. 272. Again, a lovely flight. Definitely a little bit lower and a little bit more penetrating now, I would say, looking at visually. It doesn't look to be sort of climbing as much, but again, an interesting look at spin numbers. 278 that time. That's a really nice hit, and again, just slightly up that right-hand side, which for me is really quite pleasing to see. Don't like to see that left shot at all. Yeah, lovely. Just getting quite a nice little shape on that. I love the fact that these are just going up that fraction up that right-hand side, 273. That's a nice distance again. So really the feel between these two clubs, they don't feel a massive amount different between them. The sound isn't anything different. It's just really a lot of the look as it sits there, a little bit more compact from that front to the back of the golf club, so it's not as long coming back, and obviously sits a little bit square there, which as I said before, just looks very much more pleasing to my eye. But apart from that, the look, or sorry, the feel off the club face and the sound is identical. All right, that's a little bit off the bottom. That's flown absolutely fine. Felt like, when I hit that, felt like that's just going to go left on me there, and it hasn't done. Definitely off the bottom of the club face, so I know that spin's going to go up there. It doesn't matter what LST, what weights you can put in there in terms of that low spin. I know that spin will creep up because of that. That's a lovely hit. Really nice hit. Must be going quite a long way, that. Yeah, that's trundling well over that 270, 274. That's great. I mean, if you could have that sort of distance and just have some of that accuracy as well that you tend to sort of see with the 3-wood. This is what a lot of my pupils would sort of say to me, you know, say 3-wood, I'm pretty confident with, I can hit the fairway. Driver just a little bit more wild. So obviously the shorter shaft, a little bit more loft, tend to get that a little bit more control. But then if you can squeeze those yardages out, it's great back up to driver off the tee. Okay, let's go and check those numbers out a little bit more detail between the standard G410 and the LST. Right, so number time. So standard on the top, LST on the bottom. So we're going to quick look at club head speed first. So identical, 109.5, 109.6, absolutely identical. So we can see then ball speed is 154 against 154.7. So again, pretty identical. So there's nothing splitting there in terms of that speed off the club face. Fraction lower on the launch on an average with the LST, but I did have that low strike there. You can see that 8.2, that's the low in the face strike. That's going to pop my launch down, but pop my spin up a little bit. So it's not a great combo for trying to get some sort of distance in a way. So that's obviously just going to pull that down a fraction. So I think if you took that out, you know, and probably just had a slight low one there, it's probably similar, isn't it? So just a fraction lower, but nothing in it at all. Spin wise, literally on average 100 revolutions lower with the LST, so it is minimal. And I think, to be honest, you know, Ping would probably argue it's somewhere between 300 and 500 spin lower, so it's not a huge amount. So if you're spinning your 3-wood at say 4,000-5,000, you know, all of a sudden an LST isn't going to bring it down to 2,500-3,000. You know, that's not going to happen. So it is more subtle on what it's actually going to do. I think the biggest influence there is the looks of it. The difference of the looks plays a massive part to me, and knowing that I can get it a little bit lower, great, but also my shot direction pattern was better, so that would influence me more than that 100 revolutions there. Obviously said I got that low one there which popped the average up, but then on the same flip side of things I had that toey last one with the standard one, which will have pulled the numbers down a little bit. So you could sort of say, let's get rid of that, let's just see what that is. If I disable that low spin with the standard one and then that high low low strike but high spin with that one. You can see then all of a sudden there's a difference of about 300, isn't there? But again, you could just carry that on going, you know, you could hit 20 shots with each and start deleting some out. You got to look at every shot, haven't you? So let me just pop those two back in. So looking at a distance number, again, 3 yards in it, and the carry 253, which is really, really healthy. Again, that low one in there, then that juicy one there with the standard head, which obviously goes out a little bit further. And then 272, but more importantly, I'm more happy with the accuracy of the LST, the way it looks, less chance of that going left, and I didn't really hit any real left ones there. You know, 5.8 yards left was my biggest one. The fact that I had an 18-yard right, I don't mind that, because I know that's not really going to get me in a lot of trouble. It's going to stop pretty quick when that comes into land as well. Okay guys, so there we go, there's the standard G410 against the LST. It's like saying with those numbers, not a huge amount in it. Pretty hard to sort of split, isn't it? But I think just that slightly low spin, which I think is a good thing. You know, it's not going to do a lot of difference, but I know that it's there, so mentally it's a good thing. But I think the biggest difference between those two is the looks of it. You know, it looks more confident sparring for me because of my shot shape, and I think generally that would be the same for a lot of better players that don't like to see that club face sit towed in. Again, you've got options to start manipulating the loft around to change that face angle. So if you took loft off, it would move that face a little bit more open. But then do you want to go down to that 13.5 degree just to try and get the club face to sit where you want it to sit? That's maybe the question you've got to sort of ask yourself. But then again, you could go up into the 5-wood and then drop the loft back down side of things. So there's different options for you to explore, but again, that always proves the point that you've got to go and get fitted. Go and try these options and see what actually works for you. But comment down below, let me know your thoughts. LST against standard G410. Is that something that you would have in LST? Do you need that lower spin? Would you purchase it over maybe my numbers there? But again, I want you to go and get testing yourselves to make sure you are getting, or you're seeing the actual difference to part with your money then. Okay, thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Follow me up on my social media platforms, both Instagram and Twitter. And hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.